coders, it's Derek Codes here. And today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Not going to be PHP and Laravel as usual. Today we're going to be jumping into some JavaScript and CSS. Because I've gotten a lot of questions over the last couple weeks on JavaScript and CSS, and specifically something that's come up a couple times is, hey, what's the best way to add a spinner to a HTML button to show some progress to the end user to know that we're working on something behind the scenes? And people brought up JavaScript libraries, CSS libraries, using SVGs and stuff, and I was like, whoa, it's not that complicated. It's actually something that's really, really simple to do. So let's dive into some code and check it out. Thanks for watching. All right, so we're jumping over to our code editor, and to create our submit button spinner, what we're gonna do is create a new HTML document, right? That's the first thing that we're gonna do. So whenever you're doing anything in code, you wanna define what it is you're building, right? So we're building an HTML document. We're gonna wanna use the doc type tag here to define that we're building an HTML document. It's always just good practice, right? So we're going to use some basic HTML here to build an HTML document. A little stuff like title. This is my submit button spinner. We're going to make a head tag here. Make a body tag. Just to get ready for what we're gonna do, right? So in the head, we're gonna need to do a couple of things. First and foremost, and really the only thing for this example, would be linking our style sheet that we don't have yet. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna use the link syntax here, and it's a type of style sheet with a href of style.css. Now, normally I would put my CSS file in a folder called CSS, my JavaScript in a JavaScript folder, like a JS folder. But for this is just a quick example, so we don't gotta get too crazy. But let's go ahead and save this. We'll call it submit.html. And replace what we got there. Let's go over to Firefox here and actually open up this file. It's completely blank so far, but it looks great. Let's go back to our code editor. And in our body, this is where we're going to want to start defining our button that we're going to be working with, right? So I'm going to type a button, and I'm going to have an ID on it called submit button. All right, cool. All right, so now let's create that CSS file that we were just talking about called style.css. Cool. And in there, that's where we're going to want to start putting all the different styles for this button and the animation CSS that we're gonna build out. So let's start defining our button here. Buttons in HTML come with a lot of extra baggage. They kind of look like Windows 1998 style design. So we're going to want to collapse a lot of that. I'll show you what I mean in just a second here. Let's just create our basic button here. 50 pixels should be good. Background color of, I don't know, purple, let's say, right? My editor actually allows me to click on this little swatch here and actually define the color. It's really cool. This is called Nova. It's by Panic. Really cool Mac app. But most editors are probably going to allow this. But if you've been watching these videos for some time and you know my website, you know I love fun colors. So let's do something a little bit more, something that has a little bit more pizzazz in it here. Yeah, it looks pretty good there. Cool. All right, let's save that and check out our button so far. Cool, there it is, looks good. But see, this is what I mean by the Windows 98 kind of look to it. There's kind of these little borders on the side here. Let's go ahead and actually get rid of those. Say border none, and then we'll add some nice little rounded corners here. Border radius, let's say 5 pixels. Color of the text, we're gonna make white, I think. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and refresh that. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Looks great. All right, so let's jump over to our HTML file here and add our submit text. So we're going to say, this is going to put this in like a span submit form. That text looks a little weak though for this example. Let's try and beef that up here with a font family of Avenir, font weight of bold, font size of 1 EM. Yeah, that looks good. You'll notice though when you hover over your button, at least in Firefox and Mac anyway, it doesn't give you the pointer to look like it's actually something you can click on. So we're going to want to fix that too. So in this button, we're going to say the cursor should be a type of pointer. I'm going to give that a try. There we go. Now we get the little pointer finger. It looks like that we can actually click on this bad boy. Cool. But you know what? We should probably add some type of hover state to this so we know you can actually, the interaction with it is something that we're encouraging here. So let's say button hover. Boy, let's change the background color again. I'm going to copy our color from up here, and let's make it maybe like a little bit darker when you hover over it. Let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. But you know what? It's kind of choppy when it just jumps like that. We should probably make it transition a little bit better. So let's go ahead and go to our button tag here and actually transition of, let's say, 0.5 seconds. So that'll animate the transition of any style changes that you do upon in the next class that's added. Nice, that looks beautiful. Very cool. Sweet. All right, cool. The next thing we'll probably want to do is actually add our spinner, right? Let's go ahead and add our spinner. Div class, we'll call it spinner. How's that look? Looks pretty good there. Let's jump back over to our CSS, and we're going to want to say button spinner. So we're going to define the styles for our spinner, and our width and height we'll set to, we'll guess here at 14 pixels just to make it nice and small. The border radius will be 50%, and then we're actually creating, this div here is actually going to be a clear div, but it's going to have a border around it that's a circle, believe it or not. So what you can imagine is a square that has a 50% border radius, so it's going to turn it into a circle, but it's still clear right at this point. You can't actually see it. So what we're going to actually do is add a border, let's say 6 pixels, solid, and then we're going to use RGBA to define. It's going to be black at first. And you're probably thinking, why is it going to be black? That's kind of weird. Aren't we going to have it be something you can kind of see that's fun? But just bear with me there for a second. You'll see what I mean here. Oh. So this class I had was not actually, it's not on the button. It's actually a subclass. So there needs to be a space between there. That was my fault. Let's go ahead and refresh this. And there is our spinner, the beginning of it. It's going to be like a black background of the spinner. So now what we need to do is give it actually the white piece that's actually going to be spinning around it. So we can actually do that really easily with border right color. You can set the color of just the right side of the border to be white. And then we're going to animate it. Before we animate it, let's take a look at what that looks like. So you can see there's the right side of our spinner then now actually has a white piece to it. We're going to try and actually spin that around in the circle. And it's really easy to do using the animation syntax here. So animation space, we have to name it first. So we'll call it, I don't know, rotate border for 1 second, linear fashion, infinite. So infinitely, we're going to spin this for in a 1 second interval around the button. So let's save that. And now we actually have to use the keyframes. And now we're going to name the keyframe. It's going to be called rotate border. And in here, we're actually going to define at what point in the stage of the animation we want that border to move. So at 0%, we want to transform the position. We're going to rotate it 0 degrees. That's easy. And at 100%, we're going to transform it again. We're going to rotate it 365 degrees. Let's go ahead and take a look what that looks like. Awesome. Now it's spinning. That looks super cool. But as you can see, it's kind of messed up. it's kind of stuck in here with the submit form text and the spinning rotating banner. So let's get into some of our other JavaScript and CSS to actually move this thing so that it's not right in the way. So let's go back to our HTML, and what we're going to do is start our JavaScript. But the first thing that I want to pull into my code here is jQuery. I'm a big fan of jQuery. I use it on a lot of projects. It has a lot of click handling and animation libraries built into it. It also has Ajaxing capabilities built into it. You can build this natively, use it with just native JavaScript, but it's kind of a pain. And why do all that work, right? So it's something, I imagine if we're going to submit this form, I'm probably going to be using Ajax, so I'm probably going to want jQuery anyway. So what you're going to want to do is jump over to jQuery.com and click download jQuery. And from here, you're going to want the minified version, probably the full version right here. That's the one I'm going to be using because the slimmed down version down here doesn't have Ajax and some of the effects in it. So I'm going to want this right here. I'm going to copy this URL, go over to my code, say script source, just like that. Script source, and I'm going to add my own scripts.js. So let's start our scripts.js. Replace my old version here. Cool. And what we're going to do is actually use jQuery to, once it's loaded, so we want to, jQuery is cool too because it can actually really easily allow us to detect when the whole document is done downloading. So all the resources, all the CSS, all the JavaScript is done downloading. We want to then allow someone to actually click on our button. All right, cool. So this is the syntax. It's a shorthand syntax from jQuery to actually detect, is the document finished downloading? So cool, we've done that. And what we want to do is use the onClick function here to detect when our submit button is clicked. And what we'll do right in the beginning here is just, let's say console log submitted. Go back over to our file here and hit submit. So I'm going to open up my console and hit submit. Ooh, and there's on the console log, it says submitted. Perfect, that's exactly what we wanted. Let's go ahead and close that then because we won't need that again. I just want to make sure that it's actually working. As I code, I always like to kind of build it piece by piece to know, is it working? Is it getting in there? Do I have any syntax errors? All that kind of stuff. All right, cool. So now that we're in here, we're going to do a couple things, right? So when you first click on it, we probably don't want the text to show, the submit form. We probably want to fade that out. So first thing first, let's go back to our style here and go to our spinner and probably set this to a display none because we don't want this spinner to be showing when you first get there, right? Cool. I'll go back over here and refresh. All right, cool. Now it looks like a real submit button, right? All right, let's go back to our code here. Go over to our JavaScript. So our spinner isn't showing, but submit form is showing. We're going to fade out submit form first and foremost. So what we're going to do is actually use this find span. And we're going to fade out in 400 milliseconds. So what this is doing, so we're inside, so on this click, you're in submit button. So you're inside the submit button right now, so you're referencing it as this. So this thing we're talking about is submit button. And once you're in there, so you're clicking the submit button, we're in submit button, we're gonna find a span. Well, it's right here. Span is what's encapsulating our submit form text. And we're gonna fade it out over 400 milliseconds. Let's go ahead and give that a try and see what that looks like. Nice, that looks good. And now after we've done that, we're gonna do something really similar. Let's copy and paste this. Try and format this a little better. We're gonna find .spinner and delay it by 400 milliseconds because this span is fading out after 400 milliseconds, and we don't want to start our fade in of our spinner until after it's finished. So we'll say it's delayed by 400 milliseconds as well. And instead of fading out, we're gonna fade this bad boy in. Let's go take a look at how that looks. Nice, the text faded out, our spinner faded in. The only problem is it's off to the left-hand side. That's not gonna work. We want it to look a little better than that. All right, so we have to jump over our CSS, I think. Make a couple changes here. So in our button, I'm gonna use Flexbox, I think, to position this. I'm gonna set this to a display type of flex. It's gonna be a flexible button. And I'm gonna align the items in it to center and justify the content to center as well. I'm thinking that's probably all we want to do. Let's go ahead and refresh here and check it out. So we fade over, animates nicely, submit form fades out, look at that, and our spinner fades in. That is nice. Perfect. Now from here, the only thing you'd ever want it to stop, obviously, is probably, feedback from your AJAX request or something like that. You're storing data or whatnot. You're doing some type of calculation. You're animating something on the screen. You're telling, informing the user something before you bring this back. But when you're ready to do that in your JavaScript, you basically just reverse these two lines of code here. This span fade out. You're gonna fade that in. And then the spinner, instead of fading in, we're gonna fade that out in that reverse order. So pretty straightforward, but most of the time, we're going to want to wait for whatever request is coming back to successfully do that, or provide an error to the user, right? So pretty straightforward. Now you know how easy it is to build your own CSS and JavaScript-based spinner to provide feedback to the user that there's something here, we're working on it, we're submitting your form, we're going to get back to you in just a moment. Really super easy. You don't need any external libraries or complex SVG graphics in here. It's super awesome, super easy, and you can do it on all your forms. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you liked it. Be sure to comment below with any questions you have, ideas for my next video, or anything else that's on your mind. Also, like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get alerted of my next episode. Until next time, keep coding, everyone.